Now to the economy, and the crucial inflation report that's out this morning is rising prices are greatly impacting Americans.
Inflation is often portrayed as a bad thing, and for good reason. When inflation is high, the cost of living goes up and people's purchasing power decreases. This can lead to economic hardship, particularly for those on fixed or low incomes. It can also cause problems for businesses, as it eats their profits, which usually leads them to make cuts in the workforce, and in some cases could lead to bankruptcy. So, how can we bring inflation down? Well, the crazy thing about this is that the key to this whole problem lies in the city of Fort Worth, in the great state of Texas. I know. It may sound surprising, as the city of Fort Worth is only the fifth biggest city in Texas, with a population of less than 1 million. But the city has one building, this building, that with a push of a button could seriously hurt inflation and bring it down to normal levels. There are a variety of reasons why governments print money. One of the most common reasons is to inflate the money supply, which can help to stimulate economic activity during particularly tough economic situations. This is exactly what happened in America with its 3 rounds of stimulus checks during the whole COVID mess. But there is one big issue caused when governments print too much money, and that issue is what we all know as inflation. When a country prints more money than it's supposed to, it causes the value of its currency to go down. This is because there is more money available, so each individual unit of currency is worth less. This decrease in value leads to inflation, as prices for goods and services increase. Over time, inflation can have a significant impact on your standard of living. Businesses often pass on higher costs to consumers in the form of higher prices, which can lead to wage stagnation. That's how inflation leads to generalized financial hardship, as people find it difficult to keep up with the rising cost of living. So, how can we beat inflation? Well, the thing is that this is not the first time that the American people have to deal with inflation. The country already suffered from this phenomenon for more than a decade during the 70s. Before Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, America was suffering a phenomenon called stagflation. Stagflation is a situation where there is high inflation and high unemployment at the same time. Up to that point, the Federal Reserve was printing millions of dollars every day and pumping them into the American economy through national programs. The stagflation continued until Ronald Reagan became president in 1981. He promised to fix the economy, and he did.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
He lowered taxes, which helped to increase economic growth, but he did one thing that was up to that point unthinkable. He made sure to seriously cut the money supply provided by the Federal Reserve. There are several reasons why this policy taken by Reagan was effective. When there is less money in circulation, each dollar is worth more. This makes people less likely to spend and more likely to save. Also, reducing the money supply can help to reduce government spending. When the government has less money to spend, it is less able to support costly programs and projects. As a result, overall spending in the economy declines, putting downward pressure on prices, which substantially reduces inflation. That's how during Reagan's government, inflation was brought down from 13.5% in 1981 to 4.1% in 1988. So, can we actually do this in current times? Well, that's where the city of Fort Worth comes in. American currency is printed at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which is a branch of the Treasury Department. The Bureau of Engraving and Printing is responsible for producing all of the nation's paper currency. Today it employs around 1,400 workers. In addition to paper currency, this bureau also produces a variety of other products, including postage stamps, treasury bills, and security certificates. The bureau is also responsible for the design and production of many of the United States coins. It has only 2 locations, one being in the city of Fort Worth, Texas. In fact, there is a strong chance that if you take a dollar bit out of your wallet, you'll find engraved the initials FW, which indicates that that bill was printed in Fort Worth. Knowing that about 65% of the currency in the United States is printed in this facility in Fort Worth, it's easy to see how important is that building for the Bureau. I mean, let's think about it. If there was a hypothetical button that stopped the building from printing money, the amount of available currency in the future would substantially be reduced. This, in theory, could reduce inflation by a lot. The government would have its ability to pump money into the economy substantially hindered, and the currency would stop losing its value, which is something similar to what Ronald Reagan did during the 80s. Don't get me wrong, you should also make sure the government is reducing its spending and that the other location of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in Washington, D.C. wouldn't print more money to compensate for the reduction. Is the U.S. government going to do something like this? Do you believe that this is the best way to reduce inflation? We don't really know. What we do know is that inflation is a disease that must be taken care of sooner or later. Otherwise, it could lead to decades of suffering. Question: would you like to know how did a small kid from Oklahoma manage to create the biggest supermarket chain in the world? Or what does Michael Burry, one of the only investors that predicted and made billions of dollars out of the 2008 financial crisis, think of the current inflation? All of these questions and more being answered on this channel. Just click on the subscribe button and turn on the notifications if you want to keep watching content like this very soon.